by Riverside.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of In-Laws and Out of Bounds. I am half of your host, Hagen. Sitting across from me is Emilio, and we are excited to be back. What a weekend of football in general. We had a wild Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Honestly, there was upsets that happened on Saturday that we weren't really expecting. Almost upsets and major comebacks. First time that it's happened, we are now 1 in 284 in the SEC since '04 because of Texas A&M and their strong second half. And then Sunday rolled around, and any given Sunday happened again. There was some things that we did not see coming. The Chargers. We're looking at you. Anyways, Emilio, how you feeling today?
Well, it's a great day to be an Eagle. After that first half, I had a cup of this just poured straight. Then after the second half, I decided to pull out one of these bad boys. So, big Saturday, wild Saturday. I know we've talked about it, but we're starting to get some clarity now on what everything might be looking like NFL-wise. Boy, the Chargers. They forgot they played today, I guess. I don't know. They never got off the bus. And just a wild weekend of football. It was a good weekend. Really good weekend.
Yeah,
I'm excited about today's episode.
Yeah, no, it's great. This was really good. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. College football. Let's just start off with one of the bigger games of the weekend. Oklahoma goes into Tuscaloosa and takes down the number 4 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. Oklahoma was able to go down there and they scored 17 points off of 3 turnovers. They did what? Who said they were going to do this? Anybody? Yeah. This was the upset that I called that you, in not so many words, said was not going to happen, correct?
Listen, I'm very glad that there might be 12 people that actually have proof of this happening. So, hopefully, whenever we get thousands and thousands of viewers, they don't go back and look at these tapes because I was very wrong about this Alabama and Oklahoma game.
Yep. No, in all seriousness, Oklahoma was able to go down to Tuscaloosa and get a signature win to keep their playoff hopes alive and actually strengthen them very much so. It was very impressive of how Oklahoma was able to go down and get it done. They did not have an electric offense. What they did was what they've done all year, and they played hard-nosed defense. And they were down probably their best defensive lineman, and they were still able to go down there. They kept pressure on Ty Simpson all night, forced turnovers. They won the turnover battle, and they were able to walk out with the win. It was a really impressive game. Just sitting there watching it, you were waiting for Alabama just to finally, put an end to it and be able to break out of it, have some kind of big play to where they just pull away like you typically see Alabama do. But Oklahoma came into the game with a hard-nosed mindset, and they did not let up at any point throughout that game. It was...
Yeah, I think, we were talking about it, and I told you if a frog had wings, and the rest of the saying, and you had a whole bunch of ifs on this happening, a whole bunch of ifs that needed to happen, and for some crazy reason, every if came through. John Mateer played better. That defense found a way to slow down Alabama. They never let the momentum get too out of hand. And quite honestly, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop also, especially on that last drive that Alabama had. I was thinking, here's the end. Here comes Bama. I can't wait to get on the episode and say I told you so. And one more time, Oklahoma stood up to the test, and I still have no idea what to make of this Oklahoma team. That's what I've learned thus far.
Yep.
Is they could be for real, and they could not be. I have no idea. It depends on what John Mateer does. I think is the real driver of what Oklahoma team you get, because that defense is that's a good defense.
Yep.
It's
And
just a matter of which offense you're going to get.
100%. Mateer made plays when he needed to. If you look at his stat line, not anything to write home about. 15 of 23, 138 yards, no touchdowns, no picks though. So he was clean with the ball. They didn't run the ball well either. They ran the ball 28 times for 74 yards, one touchdown that Mateer was able to get in. So that Oklahoma offense really wasn't anything to write home about. If you were to look at this box score today and you wanted to bet on it, everybody would be picking Alabama. I'd be picking Alabama all day. Ty Simpson, he was 28 of 42, 326 yards, one touchdown and a pick. And then as a team, Oklahoma was able to hold Alabama to only 80 yards rushing. So they kept pressure on Ty Simpson all game. If you watched it, you continued to just to see what Oklahoma was about. And that defensive line, they made it happen when they needed to. So
Yeah, and I know we talk about this a lot too, but that defensive line they have is the type of defensive line that you have to have in the SEC in order to be at least a top tier team in the SEC. And even some of the bottom tier teams, they have that at the very least. And that's what makes the SEC so difficult, is that when it comes down to the basics of the game, just about every team in the SEC has a solid defensive line, and what separates the others is a good offensive line and a bad offensive line. Because the playmakers are going to be there. Every playmaker wants to play at a big school, and it's littered with them. So Oklahoma's interior defensive line and their defensive line across the board was absolutely impressive. The way they bottled up what could still potentially be the Heisman Trophy winner, they did a number on him. And I'm shocked. I'm still shocked. I have no words really for this.
yep, yep, they were able to hold Alabama to 57 total yards on the last four drives of the game.
That's wild.
Yep, for them to be able to do that, and then if you look at just the total yards throughout the game, Alabama had over 400 yards of total offense, and Oklahoma was 212. Oh, they
That's
doubled
that.
them on offense.
That's the bend don't break mentality. But you said Alabama had what, 4 turnovers though?
Uh, they had at least four turnovers. Yep.
See, and that's uncharacteristic of a Bama team. So for Oklahoma to be able to create that many turnovers, that doesn't happen very
Yep.
often.
Yep. And you wonder how they were able to get on it. There's a average starting field position for both teams. So Oklahoma's average starting field position was starting at their own 42-yard line, and Bama's was at their own 21-yard line. So Oklahoma was basically starting at half field
Yeah,
every time they got the ball. So that means a lot. But getting through this, that kind of muddies a lot of water here for this. If you look what's going to happen to Bama now in this college football playoff, Oklahoma's going to jump up. They were right
yeah.
there at that number 11 spot last week. They're going to now jump up and take. They're not going to take Bama's spot. Georgia will move up. We'll get to them here in a second. But Bama's going to drop out. Question is how far? Probably 13 or so, right? AP poll
I don't.
has them. Go.
I think the AP has them at 11.
AP's got them at 11.
At 10.
Yep, they've got them at 10.
I
Yep.
don't think. I think this was probably best case scenario for Oklahoma, but if you're Alabama, it's kind of like a no harm, no foul in this situation,
Yeah.
because I think both of these teams have the ability now to win out the rest of the season, not have to make the SEC championship game, and go into the playoffs. Now, the disadvantage is obviously we're not going to have home field advantage in those playoffs. So
Well,
that's my thought.
Bama's still right there. This is Bama's first conference loss. So if Bama wins out, they're going to the SEC championship game. Bama still controls their destiny in all this.
That's right. You're right. They hadn't lost. That's
No,
crazy.
they have their one poor loss to Florida State that everybody's just seemed to have forgotten about.
Yeah. Well, so that does make it a lot more interesting because let's say Alabama loses that SEC championship. I mean, that's going to be a three-loss Alabama team. Do you let them in? That's one of those situations where if you make it to your conference title game, are you penalized if you don't win it?
At that point, yeah, you have to. You have to for a three loss just because it's Bama, and that's going to be the argument. It's Bama one. They lost. Say they play Georgia again, or they play A&M, right? And they lose to either of those teams. They're going to say, well, Georgia and Bama split it. They beat Georgia earlier in the year, so they kind of cancel each other out. Or hey, A&M has been undefeated and they beat us, so why keep us out? You're gonna keep Bama out for an ACC team,
I
a
mean,
different Big 12 team. I mean,
that's another one of those deals, though. I mean, we're talking like, let's say they go to the SEC championship game and they lose by 3 points, a last-second field goal. Are we supposed to think that Georgia Tech is better than Alabama and they deserve a spot over them at that point?
to me, it comes back down to you have to take the whole year into consideration, and that Florida State loss has to matter for something at some point. You can't you you can't ignore that the whole time.
Yeah.
So if it comes down to that, and there's a three-loss Bama team, there's a three-loss SEC team in general. Say A&M loses the next three games. Obviously, you'd be losing to Samford, and then you don't deserve to be in the playoff whatsoever, right? But just go with me here. I mean, you can't put them in, right?
No,
So,
I mean, you wouldn't.
but you have to, yeah. They're going to keep them in. It's another one of those brand deals. It's just like let's get it over into it's Texas and Georgia, right? So Texas went over into Georgia Saturday night, and they tried to hang with them, but eventually got the break speed off of them, 35-10. So you have a Texas team that's dropped to 7-3. In the AP poll, they dropped exactly where I said they would. They've got them right at 17. I said somewhere 17, 18, 19. And they're going to keep them close just in case they beat A&M. But let's look at this team as a whole. Say they do beat A&M because they have a good defense. What was Texas able to do at all Saturday night? Arch Manning, 27 of 43, 251 yards, one touchdown, and a pick. They ran the ball for 23 yards as a team. 23 yards. Texas' offense has proved time and time again against true competition that they cannot score the ball. Even against lesser competition, cue Kentucky.
No, I don't know. To me, there's a very distinct difference between a 7-3 Alabama team and a 7-3 Texas team. That Texas team, you saw what they did against Georgia. They obviously had no business being there. So why do we need to roll them back out there just to know that they have no business being there?
Just a
This,
TV deal.
this Alabama team, they're in these games that they're aside from the Florida State game, which I get what you're saying. Why play the game if you're not going to even consider it? But I feel a lot more confident in putting a three-loss Alabama team in there than I would a three-loss Texas team because Alabama actually competed against Georgia. That was a good ball game. what Texas rolled out there was exactly what we thought was going to happen. Well, I think you actually went with Texas. I don't know.
What? Yeah. I don't know what you're drinking over there, but I sure as heck didn't pick Texas. Sure as hell
But
didn't.
no,
Yeah.
there's even if Texas beats A&M, they could beat them by 70 points. There's no reason to believe that they should be one of the teams that are in the playoff.
Now, if Texas beats A&M by 70 points, then there's going to be a big conversation on the hands there. So, but Saturday night, Georgia. You talk about Georgia, a team that doesn't have to worry about getting into that playoff. Gunnar Stockton outperformed Arch Manning just like I said they would. Said he would, right? I think we both agreed on that.
Yep.
24-29, 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. And Georgia was able to rush the ball for 128 yards as a team. Nate Frazier being their lead runner there with 72 yards. Georgia just dominated them. They went toe to toe for a little bit there. It's kind of shaky. You didn't know what was happening. They went into halftime 3-14. Texas came out, scored, got a little closer. And then Georgia just put on a masterclass. They outplayed them, they out physical them, and they outcoached them. It
Yep.
was Kirby Smart calling for an onside kick right after they scored just to really crush their spirits. That was fantastic. I
I
mean,
had a question for you.
yeah,
That onside kick, I went back and forth on this after I saw that. And at first I was like, man, Kirby must really respect this Texas team and think they're an actual threat. And then I thought about it a little bit more and I was like, no, he has no respect for this Texas team because
yeah,
you get the ball at the 50 and what?
yeah,
We're going
exactly.
to take it from you and then run it down your throat.
He was,
So
yeah, he was not worried whatsoever about them going down there and scoring.
that was,
Yeah, if that's the case, you're like, okay, well, if you're going to have a good chance of scoring, then I'm just going to put you over there on the 20 or behind it. I'm not going to give it to you at the 50. That's
yeah,
yeah. No, there was no respect there whatsoever for that. This has got to knock Texas out of playoff contention, even if they beat A&M, in my opinion. I don't think it
yeah,
does in the national spotlight or the committee's eyes just because it's a brand. There's going to be a lot of things that happen with TV deals, different things of that nature. And it goes back to what we talked on last episode with teams that get in there of SMU like stature from last year. They would rather put somebody in there like a Texas or versus putting a two-loss ACC or Big 12 team in there that they think could potentially have get some kind of fire, or at least they know for sure they're going to get viewership out of it. So
yeah.
I think a lot of it plays to there. Yep. So moving on from that, let's get some quick hits here. So Oregon's able to take care of Minnesota 42-13, despite Emilio calling for an upset there.
Hey, it looked good for a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean right before kickoff.
Yeah, right before kickoff. Yeah, the Ducks took care of them pretty easy. Clemson gets an upset over Louisville 20-19. Nobody really saw that one happening, but Dabo still got something up his sleeve there. So Ohio State takes care of UCLA 48-10. Let me re-clarify that. The Ohio State. Texas Tech never gives UCF a chance. Takes care of business 48-9. Jacob Rodriguez, he became, I think, I can't remember if it's one. Oh, he became the sixth player since 2015 with a rushing touchdown and a defensive interception in the same game. And he hit that Heisman pose after that rushing touchdown. So,
Rightfully so.
rightfully so, huh?
Hey,
That's
one
it.
thing real quick before we move past this Texas Tech team.
Yeah.
This AP poll has Texas Tech and Oregon tied at number 6. There's no way somebody can look at this Texas Tech team and this Oregon team and say that they're tied and that they're the same level of team. I've refused to believe that.
It,
It's it's a disgrace. Texas Tech is better far and away, I think, and they better have some respect for them with these next rankings that they come out with on Tuesday because that would be baloney.
No, I agree 100%. It just comes back to no respect for Tech or the Big 12. Who's Oregon played? They haven't played anybody other than Indiana, and Indiana handled them. They'll get
Right.
another chance here with USC this weekend, but I agree. I saw that and I shook my head at it as well. Ole Miss is able to escape an upset from Florida, 34-24. Lane Kiffin did not switch sidelines at halftime like some thought he may, or leave with Florida back to Gainesville like others thought he may as well. So there's some speculation of them signing him long term, like Mike Elko got this weekend. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Rebels are trying to lock him down. The college game day of the week: Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh. Notre Dame went up to Pitt and just took care of business. Showed Pitt that they didn't have any reason to be on the same field as them. That was one that I called that I'll take back there. But Jeremiah Love is making his case for Heisman Trophy, and he's not getting enough love for it either, which is sad. He had 23 carries for 147 yards and a touchdown. He's just a he's just a stud at running back. He's gonna be phenomenal at the next level as well. He should be getting more credit. CJ Carr went 21 of 32, 212 yards, two touchdowns, and two picks. Mason Hinsteckel, he had a tough game. 16 of 33, 126 yards, and one interception. Pitt was only able to rush for 70 yards as a team. When this game started, obviously I was watching A&M, and then I look at the score bar below me, and I see it's 14-0 Pitt, and I'm like, oh man, or 14-0 Notre Dame over Pitt, excuse me. And I went, oh man, that's not good. And they just could not keep up. They were outclassed in every aspect that you can say. And Notre Dame makes a good case for them to get into that playoff. Pitt's right there in the ACC. They're tied for first still. I don't know. I mean, I was the one that was high on Pitt, and now I'm backtracking a little bit here, so I don't want to do that. But that's it. Just solidifies Notre Dame's spot that much more. So Notre Dame basically punched their ticket right there, barring any massive upsets over the next 2 weeks. So TCU traveled to BYU and did not fare so well. Score of 44-13 BYU. That was not as close as any of us thought it was going to be. It was a tough break for TCU there. Bear
Bears
Bachmeyer
back.
Bear Bachmeyer was 23 of 33, 296 yards and a touchdown. Added another 59 yards on the ground and a touchdown as well. So he's solidifying his case there a little bit. Utah, number 13, Utah went into Waco and took down Baylor 55-28. Miami handled business at home 41-7. Georgia Tech has to make a comeback to get away from an upset of their own. They win by a score of 36-34 over Boston College. USC makes a comeback themselves. They beat Iowa 26-21. That USC team, they're creeping up into that playoff conversation now. They really are. If you look at it, they've got another test this weekend. If they're able to beat Oregon, they're not going to make it to the Big Ten championship, but they are going to have a case. If they beat Oregon, why wouldn't they get put in the top 12?
They would, but they're not gonna. They're not gonna beat Oregon.
Why do you say that? You've been down about Oregon.
I'm down about Oregon, but I know USC, and they're not gonna beat Oregon. I don't know what deals you made or what this strange allegiance is to Lincoln Riley and USC, but they're not beating Oregon.
It's there. It's right there for the taking. And USC has proved with Iowa that they can play tough. If they can be more physical, win that line of scrimmage battle against Oregon, they have just as much of a chance to do it as anybody did. So they've They've got a legit shot. We'll see. Michigan survives their upset of their own, beat Northwestern 24-22. How you feel about that one? I wouldn't start bragging right now. Barely get barely getting past Northwestern. Ohio State's a different beast, so you better watch out there.
Hey, we live our lives a quarter mile at a time, and it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
Yeah. Uh, Virginia went down to Durham and took care of the Duke Blue Devils 34-17. Tennessee handles New Mexico State 42-9. South Florida went to Navy, got upset themselves 41-38. That's an interesting one there. I don't think they'll be considered for that group of 5 spot. They still have that opportunity to win, which they would automatically get in, but obviously seeing what happened when Navy played Notre Dame, nobody wants that to happen. I think right now at that point, when we talk about this a little more, what group of 5 team that you look may get in there, there's not one right now that anybody wants to see play one of these bigger schools because it does not look good. Arizona takes down number 25 Cincinnati 30-24, essentially ending Cincinnati's chances of getting to a Big 12 title game. They had a decent season there. One game we didn't touch on, obviously, that we'll have plenty of commentary for here is the number 3 team in the land, the Texas A&M Aggies, survive a brutal, and when I mean a brutal first half, it was brutal against the South Carolina Gamecocks. They win by a final score of 31-30, but man, that was tough. I texted some buddies. I said, "We're not shooting ourselves in the foot. We've blown the whole damn thing off in this first half." And that was tough to watch. You go into halftime down 30-3, you have everybody thinking, was this truly a fraud? Is this where it happens? Typical Aggies. This is we get all the way through this season. We get past our 8-4 curse, and now we're gonna drop 9-1 and get blown the doors off against South Carolina. Everybody's telling me you said this wasn't a trap game. Look, it's a trap game. Blah blah blah. Right, and that it was bad. I'll tell you what, Sellers, he came out. He did not look like the same quarterback that he's played the whole beginning of the year. They had everything going on offense, and A&M had they came out, went down the field, got held to a field goal. They had multiple chances, dropping balls, throwing balls short on that corner route in the end zone. Whether the wind got it or not, there was some speculation about that. Threw a slant right there to Concepcion, who dropped it. It was right in his hands. Just missed tackles and blown assignments. Everything you can think of. It was a terrible first half. But Mike Elko is probably the best second half coach in the nation. And I don't know what he says to those boys when they go in that locker room, but they sure as hell listened. And they came out and they just chipped away. And really, they had an opportunity. They went a little trickery there. This should have been at least 38-30.
Yeah,
Shouldn't have been as close as it was, right?
right.
So they went
Man,
trickery on third and goal for whatever reason, but
it was one wild ride. I heard from a source inside the stadium that in that first half they were serving hot beer, the nachos were stale, the burgers were undercooked. Randy Bond couldn't throw a BB in the ocean. Offensive line couldn't. They were doing lookout blocks the whole first half.
yep.
For those of you that don't know what a lookout block is, that's when the defensive end gets past the left tackle and he says, "Look out." Uh, the defense was playing Matador defense. I mean, anything and everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And I, man, I about fell apart. I fell apart mentally, physically. And that second half was the A&M team that I was used to seeing. That was the most complete game I've seen from an A&M team in that second half that that was a full-on masterclass that second half.
Yep.
Quick 3-and-outs, long drives down the field. That 99-yard drive was something of beauty. Now, granted, a lot of it came on a 76-yard reception, but I mean,
It all
just
counts.
absolutely changed the entire game in a matter of a half. And should this have happened? No. Like, they should have came out and taken care of business from the start. But this is one of those wins that when you get into the deep waters of the playoffs and you're playing one of those teams that also likes to go to the deep water, now you have a little bit of something in your back pocket that says, man, we have been here before. We've been down. We can come back from this. So it's a bad win, but there's no such thing as a bad win. We'll take it on the chin. Get ready for these mighty Sanford Bulldogs. I feel good. I feel a lot better. Um, Geez, man, that was a wild game.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
I've seen some talk about this being Marcel Reed's Heisman moment. From having a terrible first half, he could have thrown 5 picks that first half. They got really lucky that the score was only 30-3. But for them to come out, he played lights out. Like mentioned before this game, when a team was trailing by 27 points, since 2004, the teams were 0 and 286.
Damn.
Now we're 1 and 286. But Marcel Reed, he did have a big game. Pretty much all of this coming in the second half. 22 of 39, 439 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. A&M didn't run the ball very well. They didn't really have the chance to because they were playing catch-up the whole second half. But he came out in that second half, and he was playing great. The best I've seen Marcel Reed play. He was hitting his open targets, moving around the pocket, stepping up in the pocket, finishing throws, doing all these things. For A&M as a whole, isn't it great to have your worst game in one half and still be able to come out on top?
Yeah.
You can say, hey, we had our worst game of the season. Because most of the times when you have your worst game of the season, it's the full 60 minutes and you end up with a loss.
I mean, the type of grit that you have to come back from being down 27 in the first half and have all those things that went wrong. Because, like, even, there's teams that go down at a half pretty bad, but they're not missing 21-yard field goals and throwing picks in the red zone. They at least get one of those field goals at the very
Yeah.
least. And
Yep.
but to be able to come back and chip away with all of that going wrong, that's a different level of determination. That's a different level of intangibles that not very many teams have.
Yep. Commentators said it perfect. They said all these things have been going right for A&M all season, and now they're all going wrong. And for them to stick in there and keep going, it's a great sign because they've proven throughout the year that they can win multiple different ways.
Yep.
And that's what you need to do. That's what championship teams do. So, great win for the Aggies. There's still a lot of naysayers out there saying, hey, look at who they've beaten. They've beaten the bottom 7, 6, 7 teams of the SEC. At the time when they were playing them, they were ranked opponents. They had their head coaches. The season was different. We beat Florida. They had just beat Texas. Nobody's saying anything about that. LSU, they were still ranked. They still had their coach. Broke that camel's back. Early in the year, Mississippi State, it was before they took Texas to overtime. I mean, there's a lot of things here that you can talk about that nobody else is bringing up. But
I've seen the same stuff, and I think what bothers me the most is that you can say whatever you want about the bottom tier of the SEC, and some of it's justified, but until you actually go through a full season in the SEC, I feel like it's hard to understand what it's like to play because
Yep.
literally any given Saturday, a South Carolina that has talent. All that's the thing is all these teams have talent,
Oh yeah.
and at any point in time, you can get the right wind blowing in the right direction, and a spark can light a massive fire at one of these teams. And so, if you don't have your stuff together every Saturday, anybody's able to get got.
Yep. 100%. I agree. But good win for A&M. They stay undefeated. They are 10-0. Elko's got his first 10-win season, and only his second year he signed his extension. I didn't see the actual details of that extension. Hopefully it's not a 10-year deal. I think it is a long-term deal though. So those 10-year deals never pan out for anybody.
Right before the half, Joey had texted me and said, "I hope that ink isn't dry yet. I want our money back."
Yeah. They didn't sign. They held on to those papers until after the game. So they didn't get it, but looking at the college football playoff as a whole, AP poll dropped today, and AP poll doesn't matter anymore. I know, but if you look at it, you can see a lot of similarities to how the committee thinks. Just they're not exact, but they are very close in aligning. So you can kind of get a general sense because everybody almost thinks the same way, right? So let's just say here. So last week, for example, 1 through 5 for the AP poll is exactly what 1 through 5 was for the playoff poll. The AP had Ole Miss 6, Oregon 7, Tech 8, Notre Dame 9, and Texas 10. On the college football playoff poll, you had Tech 6, Ole Miss 7, Oregon 8, Notre Dame 9, Texas 10. Texas 10, 10, 10, 10. I got to pronunciate properly. But all of those 5 teams were there. A few different orders. And then 11 and 12, you had Oklahoma, BYU for the AP poll. And then you had Oklahoma, BYU for the playoff. So going into this week, your top 25, and we'll just go through the top 12 right here. You've got Ohio State number 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M 3, Georgia is now 4, Ole Miss moved up to 5, Tech is 6, Oregon is 6, they are tied, Oklahoma 8, Notre Dame is 9, Bama drops only to 10, BYU is 11, and Vandy moves to number 12. So some of this is going to change. It can't be now. Let me rephrase that. It can be the same as far as the playoff committee sees it in their rankings, but not all 12 of these teams will be in the playoff because that group of 5, whoever that fifth, well, you're going to get an ACC team in there, and then you're going to get a group of 5 team in there. So there's 2 spots there that can do it. And now you still have your closest ACC team is Miami at 14, and then Georgia Tech at 15. So they're keeping Miami in there. The group of 5 is what's really interesting. The ACC, there's a couple different scenarios right now. You have a lot of teams that are deadlocked at a one-loss schedule. There's a couple different tiebreakers there that you can look at. Virginia, basically, all they need to do is win out, and they're going to get there. Miami needs to beat Virginia Tech and beat Pitt to get in. Pittsburgh just has to beat, I can't remember who it is on their schedule, and then Georgia Tech just needs to win. So there's a couple different things that need to happen there. Some common opponents that will determine that. But what really interests me is this group of 5. Who gets into the group of 5? If you look at the AP top 25, you've got James Madison at 21. North Texas is making its first appearance at number 22, and it's their first appearance in a top 25 AP poll since 1959. That's a
And North Texas
long way.
is an exciting team.
Hey, that's a long time. And then you've got Tulane coming in at number 24 as well. I don't really know how big of a shot James Madison actually has to get in the playoff. I think it's basically slim to none, really. I think that they're going to let a North Texas or somebody in there before they let James Madison in. North Texas in the Sun Belt, or they're in the American Conference, right? The American
Uh,
Athletic Conference as well.
American. So
Yeah.
I agree. This is really interesting because James Madison, when you look at their one loss, it was to Louisville. So the more games Louisville loses, the more that hurts them because that was probably the biggest game on their schedule, and they lost that one. And Louisville at first looked impressive, but is looking less and less impressive.
Yep.
And then you look at North Texas, and their one loss came to South Florida, who just dropped out. And it wasn't that close of a game. So you have a North Texas team with their biggest opponent on the schedule not being in the top 25 anymore. So it's like, do you really put them in there since you saw them get the doors blown off them by another group of five team? And then you have Tulane, who beat Memphis. And I don't know who Tulane's lost to be honest with you, because that Memphis game was the only game I've seen them play. But they were relatively impressive. So they lost to Ole Miss by 35, and they lost to UTSA by 20 points. So do you really want to see Tulane in there?
Whoever you put in that group of five, it's just going to be one of those feel good stories. Whoever gets in there is going to be put against. They're going to have to go to Georgia, more than likely.
Yeah. So
I mean, Georgia's more than likely going to be that number 5 seed. Yeah, and they're gonna get put there, and they're gonna have to go play at
there's,
Georgia.
that's pretty much a bye week for Georgia. None of those three teams have a hope of beating Georgia.
No,
Now, if I had to pick one, I would say James Madison because they've played a big school relatively close. They lost to Louisville by 2 scores. But North Texas has a really exciting offense. I don't know how much you know about North Texas. Their quarterback is an exciting white. I mean, this guy can really sling the pill. He throws for like 400 yards a game on average. I've seen him throw for like 568 yards in a game with 5 touchdowns. He can really sling the pill, but outside of that, there's a lot left to be desired in this North Texas team.
only thing I know about North Texas football is that Stone Cold play there.
The mean green.
That's the only thing I know about them. No, but the way I see this shaking out, my prediction for the playoff is your 1 through 3 is gonna stay the same. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, A&M 3. Georgia will move up to 4. I think that's easy because they've been at 5. They win. They get an impressive win. Bama loses. They drop down. So easy to get Georgia at that 4 spot. 5 and 6 get interesting to me. I think Tech is going to get in at the 5 seed, and then they're going to have Ole Miss, Oregon. No, they'll have Georgia Tech, and then they're going to put Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Oregon, and then that gives us 10, 11, and 12. Man, I don't see how they keep Alabama in there. But I guess, though, yeah, you'll probably still see Bama in there at number 10. And then you'll have Miami and North Texas. I've seen that North Texas trend pop up. It's one here recently, but who else are you going to put in there? They've consistently put South Florida or Memphis or whoever that's kind of in that conference. So North Texas right now looks like they're leading it, so they'll probably get it. I don't think Navy's right there at the top 2, but they want people to talk about something, right? And
Yeah.
what are the two things you're gonna give them? Bama losing and them staying in the top 12, and then North Texas making it to a college football playoff that they'll probably never get the chance to again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you see anything different there?
No, I think you're probably right about your predictions there. So if Bama is one of those last teams in, that would have them playing somebody like Oregon, assuming that Oregon wins out.
Yeah, if they're right there at 10, they'll play. They'll play number because 8 should play 9, and then 10 should play 7, right? So
Yeah.
that'd be in my predictions. Who does what I say? Tech, Ole Miss. Yeah, they play Oregon. Yeah, Notre Dame, Oregon, one of those two. Yep.
See, now that would be a game worth watching.
Yeah, I think it'd be Notre Dame, Bama. We've seen that one before.
Yeah, this is a different Notre Dame squad. I mean,
Oh,
than
now
that,
you're
than
jumping on the
that,
bandwagon.
than that Notre Dame squad. That Notre Dame squad was a very. Come on, they were about as real as Manti Te'o's girlfriend. I've said it before. That Notre Dame team had no business being in the national championship.
They didn't. I said that back then too. I agree. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. A lot of people will say A&M shouldn't be up there because they're frauds because of their schedule. They're undefeated. I don't think they'll move them for that reason. You can't put another one loss team in front of them. But it'll be interesting to see. You've got a lot of fringe teams hanging out right here. BYU, Vandy, Utah. You still got Georgia Tech hanging out right there. USC. Texas is going to be right there. I'm telling you. I don't agree with it. I think they should be out, but they're going to be right there. They're going to keep them close. Because past that, there's really nobody else that has an opportunity. You still got Michigan, Virginia. They can get in if they win it out. Tennessee.
Where is Vandy at?
Vandy's number 12 in the AP. If you look last week in the playoff, they were 14th. So they were right there.
Vandy will be an interesting team if they beat Tennessee. They don't have to go to a conference championship game. What do you do with Vandy?
They need somebody to lose. They need Notre Dame to lose. They need Bama to lose again. Ole Miss to lose. They need one of those teams to lose to get in. They're not gonna. They're obviously not gonna jump a 2-loss Notre Dame team or a 2-loss Bama team. Their only hope is that they get a couple of these people to lose, because if not, they're just going to sit there right on the fringe.
Yeah.
There's not enough. I don't think they've done enough. Their big win was LSU, and
Missouri.
everybody's accounting those to nothing now.
Yeah.
They did play Bama close, but they weren't able to get it done. So, yeah, they're going to stay right there. I don't think that Vandy's got enough juice. They need a lot of help right
I think
now.
the other interesting one is Utah at 13. Utah's a
Yeah.
good football team. Now, I know
They
they
are, but
lost the Tech, but
yeah, that Tech game really hurt their resume and how they got handled in that game. So I don't think that. To me, what it's really starting to look like is this Big 12 clump that they've got kind of right here is more of just to keep those ACC schools pushed a little further back. I don't think it's necessarily so much to.
a legitimate chance.
Yeah, I think it's just more of like, hey, we need to just fill some gaps here and put some 1-2 loss teams right here so that we can keep these other schools kind of at bay a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's what it's looked like to me a little. I just don't see Bear Bachmeier. Obviously, he had a really good game. They'll bring people to watch him, but I don't see them doing it. They haven't given the respect to Tech. Tech lost one game. They've given everybody else that, and they lost to Arizona. What are they? An 8-win team now at this point?
Yeah.
So,
No, they lost to Arizona State.
Arizona State. I'm sorry. Yeah, Arizona State. Sorry.
Arizona State's looking less impressive now.
Yeah. But everybody, I mean, It's no different than Bama losing to Florida State. Okay?
No, you're
It's no
right.
different. I'm just going to keep saying that. It's no different. You can't. You can't. Yeah, you can't say that. So, anyways, but that's where it is. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with the college football playoffs that come out on Tuesday. Obviously, when we have our next show, we will react to those, critique it, do all those things. But good week of college football. There's a lot. 2 weeks left. It's going to be really exciting. There's a lot that's going to happen. A lot of things that are going to change. All going to that Thanksgiving weekend. There's some good stuff. Big games next weekend? USC and Oregon. The reason I remember that so much is because I saw College Game Days going to Oregon for
Yep.
that. There's not. You've got Pitt and Georgia Tech, Pitt, and then BYU, Cincinnati. There's not really anything else sticking out there. I mean, there's not. Yeah, it's pretty. Next week's going to be pretty subpar when you look at it.
Yeah, it's
So
not a. It's that late season active bye week.
yeah, it's going to be a lull before Thanksgiving weekend, where there's going to be a lot of action with all these rivalries that are going on. So, anyways, that'll be fun to watch. You got anything else on Saturday that you want to talk about? Any exciting whites? Maybe did you pick one, or you got one for Sunday?
Uh, I didn't see any exciting whites that really lit it up this weekend. Is
Let us
not a
down.
good weekend for the exciting whites.
They let us down.
They let
Bear
us down.
Bachmeyer. Bear Bachmeyer.
Hey, Bear's always going to be on that list. James Franklin is finalizing talks to become the next head coach of Virginia Tech, so I guess he ain't going to Florida.
I was gonna say something, but I'm gonna leave it.
Say it.
Leave it alone.
Say it. Come
No,
on.
I'm done.
Come on.
Yeah, he's not going to Florida. There's a lot of openings that are happening that people were talking about. Just like I mentioned with Lane Kiffin earlier, you got to figure out what's you got to. If you're Ole Miss, you have to lock Lane down
Oh, yeah.
to squash all this talk about him going to Florida, to LSU, wherever you want to talk about. At some point, if the Rebels want to be considered a true big program, they just need to lock it down and be done with it. But anyways, that's everything with Sunday for you? Or
Yep.
Saturday? All right, let's get into Sunday. Big weekend in NFL football as well. We start off with the Madrid game, the first game in Spain. You had the Washington Commanders taking on the Miami Dolphins, two teams that have been subpar this year. And it goes into overtime, and Josh McDaniels, how long is he able to ride a little bit here to keep himself above water? So what is the number of games that he has to win to keep his job this year?
And the rest of them.
The rest of them. You think it's a foregone conclusion? I do. I agree, but
No, I mean, realistically, I think they decided at the trade deadline that this is it.
yeah,
And they've managed to win some games. I think the only thing that makes me think that maybe this isn't it is that they got rid of the GM and kept him. So I don't know what type of finger pointing was going on behind the scenes. It makes you think that maybe, they were pointing a finger at each other, and there's always conflict there whenever you're not winning games, and the GM picks the players, but the coach has to coach them. So if there's a disagreement on roster spots and who they want and who they go get and how they spend the money, maybe it turns into a finger pointing battle, and the owner sides with the coach and the rest of the front office sides with the coach, and that's why they can the GM. There's no way to really tell, but I'm assuming that if he doesn't go on the greatest hot streak of all time, that I think his
yeah.
job is.
A new GM, in my opinion, is going to want to come in and put his own coach in there. Just like you said, he picks the players, the coach coaches. You want to have some kind of similarity in what you like and what you want your football team, program, organization to be and how you want to go. You don't want to have a coach that is a high flyer and a GM that can only, pick out talent that's ground and pound. So I agree there. It'll be. I was just thinking about that earlier. What's that number for Josh McDaniels if to stick around to where Miami's just one of those organizations where you never know what they're actually going to do. They make some questionable decisions all the time.
Well, I
So
saw a one of those morning shows on ESPN, and one of the hosts, I can't remember if it was Dan Orlovsky or who it was, but they said, "Don't be surprised if Miami finds a way to be a playoff team."
they're 4-7. That'd be really hard.
I
That'd be
thought that was the
very very
craziest
hard.
thing I'd heard.
The way Devon Achan has been rushing, he had 120 yards today. Tua didn't have a very good game at all, but the way he's been playing like a top back in the league. He has been running the ball very well. So their defense is actually, even though they got rid of Phillips and who was the other guy? Oh, what's his name? Anyways, they're still playing tough.
I
They've got a
mean,
tough defense. So
if you look at the rest of their schedule, really there's two games on here that you would look at and say there's not a chance that they win those, and that's the Bucks and the Patriots at the end of the year. The remaining four, I could see them winning those. I mean,
I guess anything's possible, right?
and then late in the season, after some playoff spots are already locked in, the Patriots at the last game of the year, they might just rest some players. The Bucks might do the same. So anything could happen for these Dolphins, I guess, but
Yeah.
highly unlikely in my mind.
I guess there's a team that's going to go on a run in the NFC, so there might as well be one in the AFC. But
Are you talking about the Panthers? Or?
moving on to the next game, the Steelers are able to expand their lead in the AFC North by taking down the Cincinnati Bengals 34-12. Big news out of this game. It looks like Aaron Rodgers may have a slight break in his left wrist. Is his left or his right wrist? One of his wrists, I know for sure. That's not good for in his left wrist. Yeah, he throws with his right, so what's it matter? But still not good. Obviously going to be very painful. Joe Flacco didn't have nearly the game that he did the first time that these two teams played. They kept it close, but the Steelers were able to pull away. The Steelers offense wasn't moving as well as I thought they would, especially on a Cincinnati Bengals team that has had tons of struggles this year. They didn't look good when Rodgers was. They didn't look great when Rodgers was in. They didn't look that great when obviously Mason Rudolph comes in. He didn't have a bad stat line. He was 12 of 16 for 127. Rodgers was 9 of 15 for 116 combined. They threw for 232 yards. Not saying much against the Cincinnati Bengals team that ranks at the bottom in total defense. They ran the ball okay. They had 111 yards as a team. Kenneth Gainwell really had the biggest game out of everybody. 7 catches, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was able to catch a couple out of the backfield there. The Bengals, they opened Joe Burrow's practice window. They should have just kept that thing closed.
Yeah, go ahead and close that bad boy.
Yeah,
No need to come back.
Yeah, no need to come back now. You're now 3-7. That window's closed. They're 3 games out of first place. That's a lot of ground to make up this far in the season. So that's tough. But we talked about it earlier. The Jaguars absolutely handle the Los Angeles Chargers as they make their cross-country trip to Jacksonville by a score of 35-6. The Chargers, I picked the Jaguars in this one because of that cross-country trip, but I did not see this one playing out this way. This one, the Jaguars were upset about that comeback that they had on them, or they let themselves have on themselves. I'm saying this wrong. That the Texans had on them last week. Excuse me. But this was they just dominated them. And Trevor Lawrence didn't have that great of a game. He was 14 of 22, 153 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick. As a team, though, they ran the ball 47 times for 192 yards and 4 touchdowns. 2 of those were from Travis Etienne. They had 2 backs with over 70 yards. And lo and behold, Jacoby Myers was once again their leading receiver, 5 catches for 64 yards. Justin Herbert threw for 81 yards in this game.
Yep.
81 yards, and they ran the ball for 42 yards as a team. They could not get anything going on offense all game.
I
This
think
was
that's what's frustrating though. That's why I think we both agreed they had to go get somebody, and I know we've talked about this, but
yep.
like Justin Herbert's a great quarterback, fantastic quarterback. He's a star, but this is a very long season, and to expect him to keep you in games or win you games for 18 weeks in a row with little to no help on the ground, it's not realistic.
No.
And today was a prime example of it. 42 yards rushing, that's 42 yards more than I had today. So it's I don't know, man. That's not a good scenario going on.
He was their leading running back too. He had 21 yards, and he was the leading rusher.
That's not good.
No, it's not. That's not how you win football games, and that's not how John Harbaugh wants to win football games either.
No.
It's not. So, and it's really surprising. Omarion Hampton's coming back at some point, but they have a good. They're 7-4, so they're in a good position here. But you can't continue to stack up losses like this
No.
because of this. And what happens with Omarion Hampton if he goes down and you get into the playoffs? That you should have put yourself in a better situation to take this pressure off Justin Herbert because it's been on him his whole career. They've never been able to. Now, I'm not saying they've always had terrible running games, but he's always had to go above and beyond and be Superman to an extent for them to
Yeah.
even be mediocre like the Chargers normally are.
Like
So,
if he wasn't having to carry the offense because of the lack of a running back, he was having to carry the offense for the lack of wide receivers or the lack of a defense. And they finally get the wide receiver and the defense figured out, and I get it. They had Najee Harris and they had Omarion Hampton, so they got comfortable. But once you knew that both of those guys were going to be out, you had an opportunity to go find somebody, and you didn't.
yep, yep. So, tough loss there for the Chargers. They fall 2 games back of the Broncos in the AFC West run there. They're still 2 games ahead of the Chiefs, but fall further back in that divisional race. They still keep a playoff spot for the moment. So, where the Jaguars, they were number 7 in the playoffs, so they're going to keep their spot right there, improving their spot. They still got a little bit to make up on the Colts, but they did what they needed to and got a win. So,
Well, you look at their records now too. This might be one of those games that late in the season the Chargers are going to look back on and wish they had won, because if it comes down to a tiebreaker, the Jags are going to have that now.
well, they had to do more than wish today because, buddy, they needed about 30 genies in a bottle there to help them because that was pitiful. But Josh Allen has 3 touchdown passes and 3 rushing touchdowns to outduel Baker Mayfield as the Bills beat the Buccaneers 44-32. This game was a lot closer than the score indicates. The Buccaneers had a chance to go down and take the lead. They weren't able to. Josh Allen, he just continues to score points. He continues to play like the MVP that he is. He went 19 of 30 for 317 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, 2 interceptions, and then he added the other 3 on the ground. He had 40 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. James Cook only had 48 yards, no touchdowns. Baker Mayfield was 16 of 28 for 173 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and then he added a rushing touchdown on the ground. Sean Tucker for the Bucks was the talk of the day for them. 19 carries, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he also added 34 receiving yards and a touchdown. So he had a big game, definitely a career game for him. The thing that I get into this is that we know the Bills can score points, and we know Josh Allen can win the game on his arm. It's never good, though, when your defense is giving up 32 points consistently like this. You don't want to have to score 40-plus points to win a game. The Bills seem like they have the makings of a talented defense, but they've never been able to put it together fully. Obviously, we should be talking about the Bucs defense because they gave up 44 points here. But this is a tough one. I look back, I look at this, and I'm like, man, Cook didn't have a big game. He didn't need to because of what Allen did. And their defense still gave up 30 points. At home.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about this Bills team,
I really don't either. And, I mentioned the defense, and it reminded me that they cleaned house in the offseason and got rid of a lot of their key secondary players that were veteran players, and even some of their interior or their defensive line players also, like not bringing back Von Miller. They got rid of Jordan Poyer. They got rid of what was his name? Tre'Davious White. They got rid of a lot of pieces on that defense, I guess, because they had, kept them for this long and they still hadn't gotten it done. I guess this was a reset. So you got to wonder how much of this is them still trying to figure out what they have. But we are pretty late in the season to be giving up 32 points. And I get it. The Bucs are a good offense. Baker Mayfield, at one point or multiple points in the season, we're talking about him being an MVP candidate. So, yeah, you're not going to slow them down completely. But if you're giving up 30, that's not a good sign. And they've given up 30 to bad teams. So it's not just a Baker Mayfield effect at that point. At some point, it's just a bad defense.
Yeah. They got ran out of the stadium last week by the Dolphins, giving up 30 points, right?
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, do I expect Josh Allen to score 6 touchdowns every game? No. So you got to wonder how long they can keep that up. We talked about James Cook needing to have a big game in order for them to win. And that didn't happen, but Josh Allen had a big enough game for the both of them.
Yep.
But again, it's a long season. This is kind of the same thing with the Chargers where you got to do something.
Yep. You got to figure something out, but
a win's a win.
Yeah, they're going to make it into the playoffs, but if you give up 30 points to the Chiefs, do you win? Because the Chiefs are a better team than the Bucs are. I think we can say that safely. If the Chiefs get in, there's still ifs there, but to be determined somewhat on that Bills team. They've been up and down, but the Bears are able to beat the Vikings 19-17 with a game-ending field goal set up by a 56-yard kickoff return. The Vikings were able to go down the field, make a comeback, go up 17-16. Looked like they had the game in control. And then special teams, man. They can make you and they can break you. And that's what they did.
Game.
Yep, that's what they did today. They made a team and they broke a team. And they were able to get down there and take care of business. The Bears keep their NFC North divisional hopes alive. And the Vikings drop back. They are... What are they, 4-6 now? So they're down looking up, trying to figure out how they can get to that 7th seed here. Caleb Williams had an okay day. He was 16 of 32 for 193 yards, no touchdowns and no interceptions. As a team, Chicago ran the ball 39 times for 140 yards. DeAndre Swift led the pack there. 21 carries for 90 yards. It was a slow day on offense. J.J. McCarthy, 16 of 32, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Aaron Jones ran the ball 16 times for 70 yards, no touchdowns. It was pretty tough. At one point, this was a 16-3 game. J.J. McCarthy led the Vikings back, put them in a position to win, but overall, just really sloppy game. Not much really here the Bears get a nasty win that they needed to continue to push forward in that playoff run. If it keeps going like it looks like it's going to go, the Lions lose, the Bears are going to be in first place in that division by the
Yeah,
end
the
of this night.
Lions just finished losing.
Yep. So the Bears
But
are
you look
your
at this Bears.
new first place team in the North.
If you look at this Bears team, this is how they win. They don't really outside of that Dallas game, they don't beat the brakes off of people. They just
Why do you have to bring that up?
no, but that was an unnecessary shot. But really though, they a lot of their games are just grind out wins, and it's nothing to write home about. But then you look at the end of the, you look at the scores at the end of the day, and the Bears win again. So at some point, you got to start believing that they're just a competitive football team, and I think that's where I'm at now with them.
I think the biggest thing is you just don't think of Ben Johnson led offenses like that, right? You think
Right.
of high flying scoring, and that's probably what it is that you're waiting for this miraculous offense to come together with Caleb Williams and having Roma Dunze and DJ Moore and then DeAndre Swift out of the backfield and Cole Kmet at the tight end position and so on and so on. And you're just waiting for this explosive offense to come out of somewhere. And maybe Caleb Williams just isn't that guy to just sling the ball all over the place. Maybe those days that USC is just the college. That's just what it is. But that I guess that's the biggest thing for me is that I think that's what we're going to see at some point. It just hadn't been there. The way that they play defense is actually pretty shocking to me that they're able to hold these teams. They don't have any really big names on that side of the ball either, but they're playing really good football. Then I'll give it to the Bears. The Vikings, on the other hand, tough loss. They have a really good team. They just went too long with Carson Wentz at the helm. And
Yep.
poor Carson Wentz, he left it all out there, but he's just not the guy that's going to get it done for you. And you losing these close games, that's what breaks your season. And it looks like it's done it for them, wasting a lot of talent over there on that Minnesota roster, but that's tough to see.
Yep.
So, first place Chicago Bears. Bear down, right? Davis Mills leads the Texans to a 16-13 win over the Titans on a right game-winning field goal. You talk about another ugly game. This was one that was surprising with how close it was. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought that the Houston Texans were going to be able to go in and put together offensive display carried over from last week where they were able to come back. You sit back and you think about it again. Hey, it's Davis Mills at the helm. It's not C.J. Stroud. Tamper your expectations here, but Houston's able to go in. They lean on their defense just like they've done all year. They've got one of the top-rated defenses, and they're able to get to 500. And I think for the way the Texans' season has gone, that's all you can ask for at this point. Start at a level playing field with the way the AFC's gone, and just continue to grind out wins. It doesn't matter against who.
Yep.
That's just what they need to do: play defense and win the ball games. Davis Mills didn't have a bad game. He was 26 of 41, 274 yards and one touchdown. They didn't run the ball very well. They only had 75 yards total as an offense. Cam Ward on the other side, 24 of 37 for 194 yards and one touchdown. Ran for 58 yards total as an offense. Cam Ward was your leading rusher over there for 33 yards. So that's a tough way to win for the Texans. Their defense came out and played. They were able to stay in the game. They had an opportunity to win towards the end, but they just weren't able to get it done. So Texans keep it rolling. The Tennessee Titans are battling the New Orleans Saints for that number one pick there in the draft. So see who gets to that one first. But
I think the thing that makes the most sense out of this season for the Texans, and just as a general rule, is that if you have a good defense, you can at least be 500.
yep, for sure. Bryce Young passes for a franchise record 448 yards to lift the Panthers 30-27 win over the Falcons in overtime. At one point, Bryce Young went out of this game, so I was watching it, saw Bryce Young go out, and then was surprised to see him come back. He was 31 of 45, 448 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. It didn't have a running game at all. They only rushed for 67 yards total as an offense. Rico Dow was held in check. McMillan was the big receiver this week, 8 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the rookie standout continues to make a case for himself. Xavier Legette has finally come alive, 4 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown. Good for them. On the other side of the ball, Michael Penix Jr., 13 of 16, 175 yards, no touchdown. Kirk Cousins played a little bit in this game. 6 for 14, 48 yards. Bijan Robinson got it going on the ground. 23 carries for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. Drake London had another 100-yard game. 7 catches for 119. The Panthers are now half a game out of the NFC South here on the Bucks. They've improved to 6-5 here. They're keeping their season alive, just grinding them out as well, winning. That's how the Panthers have done it this year. Look at all those games that
Yeah,
they've won here recently.
yeah.
So
This offense, I think, was probably the biggest point of concern for the Panthers in recent years, and they seem to be putting it together under Dave Canales, which is an offensive-minded guy. He came over from Tampa after being an offensive coordinator for 1 year. So everything was kind of an experiment. The Bryce Young experience was an experiment. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about let's end this little trial run with Bryce Young. I think we could put a bow on it and call it what it is. And then he has a game like this, which the Falcons are the Falcons. And I think if we're going to put a bow on anything, how many more games do we need to see Michael Penix Jr. and decide that he's not what we thought he was?
Kirk Cousins isn't looking any better, so they're
Well,
going to
no,
roll.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying that. I'm saying moving forward, if you're the Falcons, do you start thinking about drafting a quarterback?
you got to. I mean, Michael Penix is exactly who I thought Michael Penix was, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've got to give my bad to Bryce Young because Red Zone was on and I watched a couple of his drives and I went, man, they got to give up on Bryce Young. He's just not a NFL quarterback. And then he goes out and throws for 448 yards. So what do I know? But that Michael Penix, you talk about, there's plenty of weapons around. You've
Yeah.
got B.J. Robinson, you've got Drake London, you've got Kyle Pitts, you've got Tyler Algier. There's a lot of weapons around there.
Well, and then we were talking also is like, you got to feed Bijan and take some of the pressure off of Michael Penix, and they do that today, and they still don't win. So now the common denominator is it's not a lack of carries for Bijan, and it's not a lack of weapons on the outside. So there's only one thing left to point at.
Yep. Well, you can't give up on quarterbacks too quick. I think teams do that a little too quick, and they end up
Maybe
regretting.
he just needs a different home.
A different home helps out a lot for a lot of teams.
Send
But
him to Minnesota. Maybe that'll work out.
he gets at least one more year, so you're gonna have to deal with it for at least another year.
I'm fine with that. If he wants to stay till 2029, that's cool with me.
Cool with that. You like to see homos naked? I'm no help
Hey
me there,
man,
man. Oh, jeez. Jordan Love throws 2 touchdown passes as the Packers beat the Jameis Winston-led Giants 27-20 to end their skid. I thought that this was going to go a completely different way. Jameis was out there. He was looking good pretty early, but they go down there, had miscommunication with the receiver, throws a game-tying or potential game-tying touchdown and interception. Looked like he was going to run a post, and receiver stopped right there. So Jordan Love was 13 of 24 for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. Malik Willis came in for some relief. Jordan Love had to go into the blue tent, but he was 2 of 2 for 6 yards and a touchdown. The big news for the Packers is that Josh Jacobs went down in the second quarter with a knee injury. There was some reports earlier showed that MRIs came back clean, but they had to run some more tests tomorrow, which would be Monday, to see what happened. The Packers as a whole still ran for 128 yards on the ground. Jacobs had accounted for 40 of those before he went out. On the other side of the ball, Jameis Winston was 19 of 29, 201 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. Tyrone Tracy was 19 carries, 88 yards, no touchdowns. Devin Singletary led the way in scoring for the Giants with 2 touchdowns. Jameis Winston also added one on the ground. So Jameis was exactly who we thought he was. He came out, he made some really good throws, he made some very questionable throws. It was entertaining. The Packers, on the other hand, they still look like they're struggling a little bit here. Micah Parsons finished the game. He got the game-sealing strip sack. But, yeah, just because the Packers beat the Giants, especially with Jameis playing, doesn't really... Love looks... I don't want to say lost, but there's something not on right now for them.
They're again another weird team. They have all that you could ask for and more, and they win games, but man, oh man, is it ugly.
Yep. Yep. They do it tough. So the Packers keep pace in the NFC North and keep their playoff spot secured for the moment. But we'll see what the Packers are able to do going forward. The big matchup of the week, the Rams have 4 interceptions on the Seahawks, and the Seahawks also miss a long field goal on the final play in Los Angeles, and the Rams were able to win 21-19. Sam Darnold did not have a good game whatsoever. He went 29 of 44, 279 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. On the ground for the Seahawks, the team was able to run for 135 yards. Kenneth Walker III led the way there with 67 of those. Jackson Smith and Jigba had another good game, 9 catches for 105 yards. He continues to impress. On the flip side of the ball, Matthew Stafford, 15 of 28, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, while Kyron Williams added 12 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Puka Nacua was your leading receiver on there with 7 catches for 75 yards and no touchdowns. The Rams started out really hot in this game.
Yeah,
They came out and what were they up 14-0 before you know it? And then the Seahawks started chipping back and just kind of came back. But they had a chance there. It was Jason Myers came up short and wide right from 61 yards. So that was tough for them. This was for first place in the NFC West
yep.
here.
I think the impressive thing, if you're the Rams, you're feeling pretty good. Obviously, you would have liked it to have been a much larger gap as far as the point differential, but we know what they can do on offense, and their defense is good. And I think everybody can agree that the defense is good, but to be this good and slow down that Seahawks offense, to make them settle for field goals, to force 4 turnovers, that's impressive to me. I think if you're a Seahawks fan and you're looking at the Seahawks, this is the second time you've seen them have a multiple turnover game that you had a chance to win. The last one they did win, this one not so much, but obviously the Rams aren't the Texans, so it's still a very competitive. I mean, this game was everything we thought it was going to be. I think we expected more points, but I think not that surprising as far as good defensive play. And the Rams are for real. The Rams are a very good football team.
Yep.
And if they can stay healthy and keep this up, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Because right now, I mean, they beat the best team in the AFC, and they're beating the best teams in the NFC. So in my mind, the Rams are the best team in football right now.
Yep. All right, they're a field goal away from beating the Eagles in Philly, so
Yep.
I don't disagree with you there for sure. Brock Purdy throws 3 touchdowns in a return from his toe injury as the 49ers cruise 41-22 over the sloppy Cardinals. There wasn't much here. Brock Purdy came back. They said they were going to keep him on a pitch count. Didn't really matter. 19-26, 200 yards for 3 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey added 81 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. George Kittle caught 6 passes for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the other side of the ball, Jacoby Brissett, they about wore his arm out there.
He broke
They,
a record.
yeah, he did break a record for. So Jacoby Brissett's 47 completions are the most in a single game in NFL history. He was 47 of 57 for 452 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So he was slinging the ball all over the field. Michael Wilson was the leading receiver for the Cardinals, 15 catches, 185 yards, no touchdowns. Trey McBride also added 10 catches for 115 yards and 1 touchdown. Man, I kept Michael Wilson on my fantasy bench all last year and then part of this season, and I dropped him because I was like, this guy's never going to get catches. But Marvin Harrison Jr. did not play today, so he had to throw it somewhere. And it was to the guy that's sitting on nobody's roster right now, but so is life. That happens all the time, right? So
Do you think that
the
the Niners put out that pitch count quote just in case Brock Purdy came out and played poorly and they wanted to go back to Mac Jones?
more than likely, yeah, just in case. But they pay him so much money, he has to figure it out one way or the other. So
Yeah.
it could have been, but Niners continue to cruise, do what they do. Mark Andrews' late touchdown lifts the Ravens to a 23-16 win over the Browns and spoils Shador Sanders' NFL debut. Really wasn't much of a debut there. Sanders, he came in, but he did not look good at all. He made a couple decent passes, but I don't think there's anything to write home about there with Shador. Not sure what Dylan Gabriel's full injury is, but they were playing a little better with Gabriel in the game and right there, but then they were with Sanders. But Lamar Jackson, 14-25, 193 yards, no touchdowns on the through the air, and 2 interceptions. Derrick Henry added 18 carries, 103 yards, and 1 touchdown. Mark Andrews had 1 carry, 35 yards, and a touchdown on a fake tush push where he wheeled around and he took that thing 35 yards to the house. So that was good. The Browns defense was definitely the story of the day here. They had a pick six, and then Myles Garrett added 4 sacks of his own. That was really what kept Cleveland in the game all day, is that they were giving Lamar Jackson fits. We talked about Dylan Gabriel was 7 of 10, 68 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Shador Sanders 4 of 16, 47 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 pick. Just typical Cleveland Browns, can't get anything done. The Ravens get to 500, and they are 1 game behind the Steelers for first place in the AFC North. So that one is heating up. Broncos beat the Chiefs 22-19 on a Lutz last-second field goal, extending the win streak to 8 games. These Broncos, man, they're for real, huh?
Their defense is for real. Their offense still, I'm not sold on them, but the Chiefs also have a good defense and they were able to do enough to win. We got to talk about this, though. I get it. This was a big, important game for this particular division in the AFC. A lot was riding on this as far as tiebreakers when you get late into the season and records and the whole bit. I get it. But to put this game on national television over that Rams and Seahawks game is atrocious and disgusting, and it needs to stop just because it's the Chiefs. I hate it.
Sweet.
I don't want to have to pay for NFL Sunday ticket to get the actual game of the week. I'm swole.
That's what's great about being a Cowboys fan is that you know they're always the game of the week, no matter what. But you need Red Zone. You don't have to pay for ticket. Then you just watch Red Zone. You get to watch all the games. You don't have to watch Mahomes cry about things all the time.
But yeah, no, I did watch this game because I was forced to. And my biggest takeaway is this Chiefs offensive line has problems, or that Denver
Yep.
Broncos defensive line is very, very good.
Yep.
Uh,
No, Broncos defense is fantastic.
and
Championship caliber.
exciting whites, Riley Moss is exciting if you're the opposing team because he is a walking penalty. Holy cow! I've never that guy's he could be draped in yellow.
It's far cry from last year.
No kidding. I mean, it's pass interference every other time a throw is made. Just he was keeping the Chiefs alive, honestly. Again, the Chiefs' best player was the boys in black and white, but a lot of it was justified this go around. But the Broncos are a very good football team. I don't know that they're the best in the AFC, but they're one of them.
Yep. Looking at the two quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes went 29 of 45, 276 yards, one touchdown, and one interception, while Bo Nix was 24 of 37, 295 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. The Broncos only ran the ball for 59 yards as a team, while the Chiefs only ran for 62. So the Broncos are 4 games ahead of the Chiefs in that divisional race, and they're 2 ahead of the Chargers. Broncos look like they are a legit football team.
Yep,
Into the last game, Jalen Hurts' lone touchdown leads the Eagles to a 16-9 victory over the Lions in a lackluster offensive game here. So pretty tough. Jared Goff, 14 of 37, 255 yards, one touchdown, one interception. The Lions were only able to run the ball for 74 yards. While on the other side of the field, Jalen Hurts went 14 of 28 for 135 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He did have 1 yard, or he did have one rushing touchdown on the ground. The Eagles ran for a total of 148 yards as a team. Eagles just continue to stack wins. I hate to see it, I really do, but they they've done it ugly. And that's how they've done it a lot of the time, and they just get wins. So, what else can you say about it?
they're
I
running away with that division at this point.
Yep, yep, they really are. So they are now what they're 8-2, so they're 5 games ahead of the second place team in the division.
Yep.
As of right now, they'll probably be 4 tomorrow night, but
Mm,
still close. So not much there. The Lions got some self reflection to do here as they lose the handle for the number 1 seed in the NFC North. But games are creeping up. That was a lot. You got anything else for Sunday?
no, it was an exciting Sunday. Some surprises, some good football. I think it seems like there's a lot of parity around the middle of the league. You know, you have your few teams that have pulled away and made themselves definitive good teams, and then you have your teams down at the bottom that have made themselves distinctly bad teams. But that middle part, that's going to be the part that gets really interesting the rest of the way because it's going to, there's going to be a lot of tiebreakers, a lot of people looking at different stuff. So I think those teams in the middle, if you're one of those, you got an exciting and a roller coaster left the rest of the season.
For sure. Okay, getting into the last preview of a game real quick. We've got the Cowboys traveling to face the Las Vegas Raiders. What just go ahead and give us your take here, Emilio. What do you what
All I've heard is I've seen, for some apparent reason, headlines that defensive reinforcements are on the way. And, you know, the Raiders are a bad football team. So if you're going to get some defensive reinforcements, this would be a good time to get them. It's an opportunity to work out kinks with some new players. I don't think it matters. None of those defensive reinforcements are going to play free safety. I think y'all are getting Shannon Revel back, which until this week, that's the first time I've ever heard of this guy. So can't be that impressive. I mean, unless Roy Williams was going to come back, I wouldn't be that impressed. So I'm going to go with the Raiders. Geno Smith throws for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and the Raiders win on Monday Night Football.
Okay. Defensive reinforcements are not coming. They are here.
Oh, God.
And they are by the names of Williams, Overshown, Rebel, Wilson. We are back, baby. We are back. And there is a lot to be determined. I'm not going to go crazy here. I'm really not.
Okay.
I wanted to get you.
Thank you.
There's a lot to be determined here, but they do have a lot of people coming in on the defensive side to help shore up. You look at Quinnen Williams coming in and really giving them a 3-headed monster at the defensive tackle position, somebody that can swallow up a lot of space on that D line, help shore up the running attack. Overshown coming back, interested to see how they work him into it. Don't want to give him a full workload and just put it all on him. They've got Logan Wilson that they got from the Bengals, who's going to be on the field too, playing with those guys. James has been getting a lot of snaps at linebacker, so maybe the difference between you can keep Kenneth Murray off the field a little bit, let Wilson out there play. Revel out there at cornerback, anything can be better than what we've had recently. I mean, we have been terrible in the secondary. Donovan Wilson coming back. If we can get some kind of push to where we can help keep Demo around the line of scrimmage on run and then playing way back, where he's just playing center field, then we're going to put ourselves in a lot better position here. All this contends on the offense still coming out and getting to a hot start. Prescott's got to have a good game. They need to get the running game established, control the ball, and let that defense stay on the sideline, because we said that one player is not going to change this. Well, they didn't just do one player. They got multiple pieces in. But it's going to take time for those guys to gel and to mesh and to do all these things. So, will we go on a run? Probably. Yeah, we probably will go on a run. But we don't need to blow our load all here in Vegas Monday night. So, Jerry he can go to the craps table once or go put $1 billion on red. But just be careful in that stadium. That's all I got to say.
Well, I'm glad you're tempering your expectations.
Yeah. Oh, you need to know who I'm going to pick? Here it is. You see that?
Okay, well, when we come back here, don't say I didn't try to tell you. That happened the last time they played on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm still disappointed in that. That was a tough one to swallow. And if we lose tomorrow, I may not ever come back on here. We'll see. But no, they got to show it. They got to prove it. We'll see what happens with them tomorrow night. So that's it. That's our prediction. That was a lot. We've been going for an hour 40 here. So you got anything that you want to say to the folks before we sign off?
No, I'm excited about tomorrow night. I hope to come back here on this next episode and have something to really chat about.
Yep. I really need to plug this stuff at the beginning of the episode. Maybe one of these days I'll figure this out. But guys, if you're still listening, go give us a follow on anywhere that you like to do your social media. We are pretty much everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube. We put out this episode on Spotify and YouTube, so go check us out. Give us a follow. Be a part of our weekly polls. Give us some suggestions, some tips, anything that you'd like. So if you're here, we greatly appreciate you listening to us. If you heard somebody who said they only listen to 5 minutes, tell them that we still appreciate them, because we appreciate everybody in whatever capacity that is that comes out and listens and supports. And yeah, we'll be here. We'll be here on Wednesday, coming to y'all Thursday with some predictions, news, all that good stuff. And we greatly appreciate it. So, you good?
I'm good.
I'm good. Guys, we appreciate it. This has been another episode of In Laws and Out of Bounds. We'll see y'all later.